over for. Ronald,
Cool.
I know you saw a movie that you wanted to talk about that neither Steve nor I saw. Didn't you see a documentary that you were wanting to discuss?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Part of Tribeca, right?
Yeah.
Part of Tribeca. This is a little sneak peek of some of the coverage that we're going to have in a couple weeks. But I got early access, and we have early access if you guys should so choose to the D.O.C. documentary. Tracy Lynn Curry, known as the D.O.C., was really big in the late 80s into the 90s. He was the next one up. Let's say he's like a ghostwriter for like Eazy-E. He wrote some concepts for NWA. He's kind of like the unofficial member of NWA. Um, and he had this single, It's Funky Enough, which was really, really popular in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And his solo album was supposed to come out. Everybody's looking forward to it. And a couple days before his album came out, he was celebrating. He got high. He smoked weed. He did coke, and he drank. And he went on the highway and got into an accident that almost killed him
Hmm.
and destroyed his vocal cords.
Oh wow.
And the movie is about essentially like how he's been processing and the story of everything that led up to him getting signed, because he's from Texas. He's a Texas rapper that was in a group that Eazy-E kind of picked up on, and they flew him out to California, and he never moved back. And it's about him thinking about his career in retrospect, like, what he did up until that point, because it's a really small amount of time. It's about a year to a year and a half that he did all these amazing things. And then his career was essentially over, and he still tried to make music, but his voice is very different, as you'll see in the documentary. Now, he's interesting for a couple reasons. Not only is he a ghostwriter, he's pretty much respected as a West Coast rapper, kind of, even though he's from Texas. So if you could imagine in this documentary, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem recites a verse from one of his songs, like in front of him. And he asks him, like, he's like, I never knew this part of this song. So he stops the documentary, brings D.O.C. over, raps to him. And you got to see D.O.C.'s face, like hearing one of the greatest rappers of all time recite your lyrics word for word and trying to figure out what was this part of this verse. That's the dynamic of what D.O.C. was for people that know about him. So, it's about watching this journey and how he's dealing with the possibility of possibly fixing his vocal cords. Not in the same, not as it won't sound the same, but maybe figuring that out and what that would mean for him. He has a kid with Erykah Badu, which makes this even more interesting. So like his spiritual consultant is Erykah Badu. So like whenever he makes it, he's married with another woman, but when he needs to make a big decision, he talks to Erykah Badu, because I don't know if you've seen her. She's amazing. She has like this spiritual sort of energy to her. So it's a really cool, dynamic documentary that I think that everybody, even if you don't know anything about hip hop, or because the NWA thing's a little interesting, because the D.O.C. had the ending that he did in terms of his career, it wasn't over, but in the form that he had as a performer. When I say NWA, you probably never heard his name before. A lot of people haven't. The only reason I remember is my dad used to record his videos on Video Music Box, which was my dad really didn't like hip hop. That's what told me how good D.O.C. was. He kind of low key hated rap in a lot of ways, like newer rap as it started to get vulgar. He loved D.O.C. And something I distinctly remember about his video Funky Enough is he's rapping in like the water tunnel, like where Terminator 2 is.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like kind of like,
oh yeah,
I'm like, I know that. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about LA, but I know that's where Terminator was. And I distinctly remember like seeing Terminator 2 and remembering that he was filming in all these cool spots. So yeah, the D.O.C. is an incredible documentary, man. Like it blew my mind. and I would love to talk to him about it. So I'm a big hip hop fan, but I'm distinctly curious about how one is able to adjust, because it took a lot of spiritual change that your identity changed the way that it did. You know, when you get into such a, you're known for your voice and how quickly you can rap, how
Yeah.
clear you sound putting words together, and then you lose all of that.
Well,
And
you
it
know,
took a
I
big
just watched the clip you were talking about of Eminem
uh
doing the verse and then asking him what was this one part, and then D.O.C. comes over and kind of, you see him kind of getting into it while Eminem is
yeah,
doing it, and then you can see he's excited, you know, as anyone
yeah.
would be, I guess, in that moment. And then when he's like, "What's this part?" and then the guy's, he tells him, and Eminem's like, "How the fuck did you say all that? Like, how did you do that way?" I don't know. I love that. I mean, it's a great clip because part of the fun is seeing. I don't know. Whenever you see people reveal themselves to be fans of something,
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. I love seeing that,
me
like,
too.
Eminem is a fanboy of this guy, and he's going to say, "What's this part you did?" And, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. How did you do that shit?" I love that sort of, like, it's so great when it comes across from one artist to another. But anyway, no, the clip's out there if people want to look at it. If you just look for the D.O.C. documentary, one of the first clips that'll
Yeah,
come up is a new Eminem clip from the doc. So
yeah, it's really cool.
I was going to ask you
And
about the style of the shooting. I guess this clip gives me a little
sure,
bit of a clue. So there's like a talking head element, but the fact that the
yeah,
D.O.C. is there and he kind of jumps in on the interview. What's the style of the doc? Did it feel like it was a nicely made film on top of just being an
yeah.
interesting subject?
It's really well shot. And what's cool about it is DLC has quite a bit of actual footage of it as he was moving around. So like there's studio footage of like a young Easy E in the studio.
Oh wow.
There's a lot of footage of Dr. Dre as a younger guy, Snoop, because he was a mentor to Snoop when he first started rapping. So like, you know, he one of the coolest things is Snoop talks about the idea that he didn't know how to structure a song, and DLC helped him do that. So it's the talking head thing and a ton of real footage. There's no like reenactments or anything like some do, because it's him handling some of it. It's so much of his footage and so much of like actual footage of him recording and concert footage. And you know, this has to be kind of said within all the stuff, like, you know, back in the 80s people are kind of rapping like, I went to the house to get my house, to get my woman, I got my gun. Like everybody was rapping like that, and DOC changed the way that rappers were rapping. So like it was like once he came, people were trying different things. You know, that was like other people, but he was the biggest. So for him to change the genre, and this is another kind of angle of the doc, a lot of people don't know about him. So he's talking to little kids. He's like, "Do you know who Snoop Dogg is?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You know who DLC is?" And they're like, very quiet. He just looks at the camera like, "Ooh." It may as well have been like you know, like the music from what's his name? Larry David. It may as well have been that music at the end of that part. But
Bum
yeah,
bum
it's
bum.
yes. It felt like that sort of moment. But yeah, it's really cool, the footage that they have, and it's really well filmed, and there's a lot of archival footage. So
By the way,
that's what
that
kind of pulls
meme
me.
is always funny when someone takes like a footage of somebody
So
having a
good.
moment of, and especially if it's like you get a good look at their face and you see them realizing what they've done.
Yeah, yeah,
Cut to the
yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm music always works. Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out, and I have not yet begun to dip into the Tribeca selections, but we should let people know we are going to be off next week, but the week after that,
Mm.
I guess, is that when we'll be back with our Tribeca coverage?
Yes,
A little bit of a
yes,
recap.
we will.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you got that to look forward to. Hopefully, we'll put some new films on your radar, but that's definitely one I'm curious about.